Good morning. Welcome to the Church 360 Unite Settings, Pages, and Navigation webinar. I'm your host today, and my name is Jordan Bogart. I am a software support technician here with Concordia Technology Solutions, and so you can see my information here. Been with Concordia actually coming up on my 10th year here, coming up in June. So coming up my 10-year anniversary, and I tell you, it has been a true honor and pleasure to be able to serve our churches here throughout the country. Really, again, it is a blessing to be able to do that every day and share my talents with churches across the country. Joining me here today and answering questions here in the questions window is my manager, Rod Kiles. And so he's been here for, gosh, over, I think he's getting close to the 25-year mark, I think. So he's been here a while. He's pretty sharp. So he'll be answering some questions here for you guys as you have those. So anyway, during today's session, I do just want to point out that all phones and microphones have been muted. So if you have any questions, just ask them in that questions window. Like I said, Rod and I will get those answered for you. Okay, so I want to go ahead and just do a quick rundown of the structure of today's class. So just kind of a brief overview of things. And so we're in the middle of our overview right now, and then we're going to go ahead and get into our discussion. So we're going to be covering, again, settings, pages, and navigation here inside of Church 360 Unite. So kind of the basic setup of your site, setting up pages, adding content to those pages. That's what we're focused on here today. Now, we're going to have a little bit of quiz here at the end of the session. No worries, you're not being graded. This is just mainly to see did what I say stick with you guys here today, So just kind of keep that in mind. And then we're going to go ahead and at the end, we'll have a little bit extra time for Q&A. But again, just as you think of your questions, just go ahead and ask them. And again, we'll get to we'll answer those questions. If it is something about your site personally, with that, we can certainly get those questions answered, but we may need to do that through the support channel, and we kind of we'll talk about that towards the end of today's training. So again, a little bit more idea of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to kick things off by talking about this site settings. So the overall settings on your site, setting up a few kind of core things to your site. We're going to start off with. Then we're going to head into themes. We're going to talk about the different things we can do with themes, selecting particular themes, using styles for fonts and customizing your theme. We're going to talk about all that. We're also going to look at pages, kind of adding pages, setting up your navigation, and then we're going to talk about then adding in content to your site. So talking about rows and cells, adding content to those cells, and the different types of cells that we offer are all going to be talked about here today. So keeping all that in mind, let's get started. I am going to go ahead and turn off my camera here now just so we can focus in on the content here. So I'm going to do that now. And let's go ahead and open up a Church 360 Unite website. And so let me pull that up here. And I am here at a site I've spun up here especially for today's training. And so this is a pretty much totally fresh Church 360 Unite website. So this is kind of what you would have if you were just establishing a brand new Church 360 Unite site. Now, to get to your Church 360 Unite site, if you look up here in the address bar, you'll see the web address of this site. So I have first my subdomain. The subdomain I have for this site is ccchurch.360unite.com. And then the /home, and we're on the home page. That's why you see that /home here. But to get to your site, it's going to be whatever your church's subdomain is, .360unite.com. Now, once you are here, I'm already signed in, but typically what you would see is you'd come to the site. You wouldn't see a whole lot of content here up top. But if you want to sign in, you come up here to the top right. And this is going to vary from theme to theme. Some themes will have a button that says sign in. Some will have a little person icon here, but I'm going to click sign in. And then I would sign in with my email address, or if I've set a username. So let me put in my email address here. And then my password. So then I have that here. Okay. And then if you click this remember me option here, it'll save that so your web browser will remember that you're signed in, and you won't have to go back around and sign in again. If you ever forget your password though, just click forgot your password here. That'll let you put in your email address that you log in with, and when you put that in, then you'll receive an email with a link that will let you reset your password. So if you ever forget, that's how you'd handle that. But if I click sign in now, that gets me signed into my Church 360 Unite website. And you'll notice that there's an extra black bar here along the top of the page with some options. And these are options that I'm going to have as an administrator of the website that's going to let me go ahead and make changes to the website as a whole. So let's start off here in our settings menu. I'm going to click on settings. And then when I do that, this is going to take me into my settings menu. And you can see there's a few different things going on here. Let's start off by talking about the usage up here on top. Now, the usage meter is just basically tells us how much data that we have used on your site. And specifically, when we talk about data that you've used on your site, what goes into that is anytime you upload images, video, audio, or files that people can download, that's going to factor into how much data you've used on your site. Now, depending on your subscription level to Church 360 Unite, you're going to have different amounts of storage. So, what I have here is the advanced plan that provides you with 10 gigabytes, but there are different levels of plans. So our standard plan will give you 2 gigabytes worth of storage. Advanced is going to give you 10, and then if you're on our premium plan, you actually don't have a limit on how much you have. You'll have unlimited storage. So you have a few, kind of a few different routes you can go on that here, just depending on what works best for your church. There's some other things that go into your subscription plan too, and what you get, but that's what we're going to talk about here with usage then for that. Next here you have your church information. So this is just some general information about your church. Now this information will actually show up on your home page and then on the footer of your page here as well. So you can see the name of our church here is Christ Community Church. Let's say our church's name was actually Christ Community Chapel instead. So if I put that in here and save it, well, you can see now my banner reads Christ Community Chapel instead of Christ Community Church. So that's how that affects, what you see there. So I'm going to switch that back. And you can see when I switch it back, then we're back at Christ Community Church. You might also notice this contact information is down here at the bottom too. And so the contact information you have here on the church information page is what you're going to see in the footer of your church website. So if you need to adjust any of that, this is the place to do that. Then of course you have your time zone. This is going to affect what time your events show up for. So if somebody is looking at your site in a different time zone, it would adjust accordingly. And this is kind of where it knows your kind of quote unquote home time zone is. Now, if I make any changes on the account tab here, I'm going to click Save Changes when I'm done. That's going to make sure that the changes I've made stick then. Okay. Now we're really not going to talk about calendars just yet today. We're going to hold off on that. That's going to be talked about more during tomorrow's session. But just kind of note that it's here. Okay. Next up, we have the domain section. So I talked earlier about getting to your Church 360 Unite site, and to get to my site right now, I have to go to ccchurch.360unite.com. Now, that whole .360unite.com, that can be a lot of extra kind of just fluff that's kind of maybe hard to remember for the members of your church. So it might be more beneficial if my site could be ccchurch.com or ccchurch.org or something like that. And that's what a custom domain is going to allow you to do. Now, a custom domain, that does come with some plans of Church 360 Unite. If you have an advanced plan or a premium plan, you actually get that provided with your Church 360 Unite website. If you do have one of those plans and you don't have a domain already set up, give our support team a call or send us an email and we can help you guys get a domain established and connected with your Church 360 Unite website. If you're on the standard plan, you can still get a custom domain as well. There will be an additional fee for that. And if you're interested in that, reach out to your software consultant and they can provide you with pricing and kind of explain how that all works. But maybe you already have a domain though through another provider. your church already pays for a domain, and you want to be able to associate that custom domain with your Church 360 Unite site. Well, if you want to do that, then we provide you instructions on how that works right here. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to log into your domain website and add these host records, these 2 host records. And then down here in this part, you're going to come in and put in your custom domain down here. Now, don't get rid of this www. Do want to have that there. That's going to make sure that basically the domain works, whether somebody puts in a www or not. So either way, it's going to make sure that works. So you put that information in your domain, these host records, you put in your domain here, you'd save your changes, and then typically within about 24 hours, because it can take some changes to roll out, time to roll out changes to a domain, that'll make it so instead of people having to go to, again, ccchurch.360unite.com, they can just go to ccchurch.org or whatever custom domain you might have set up then. So that's how we could set up a custom domain. Now, next up, we have Google Analytics. Now, this is a free tool that Google offers that can help provide you with analytical information about your church website. So if you're interested in signing up for that, we have a link right here where you can follow google.com/analytics, and you would sign up using a Google account. So it's something you could attach to an already existing Google account if you wanted to. Now, what it will provide you is information about, like, okay, what page are people going to most here on your church website? Where are people spending their time? Where are people coming from? And it gives you all sorts of analytical information that can help inform you about how to design your church website. So this gives you insight to how people are using your site. Now, if you do sign up for it, basically after you finish the sign up, they're going to provide you with a Google Analytics 4 account number. The format of that is kind of what you see here, G, and then you see dash, and this is going to be basically a bunch of numbers here. You're going to take, and now they're going to tell you that you need to go in and you need to put this in like the code of the theme. We've made it easier than that for you though. You're just going to take this Google Analytics 4 account number. You're going to check off this box here that says enable Google Analytics, and you're going to paste in your Google Analytics account number here, save your changes. That's going to go through in the kind of background code of the website and place that everywhere it needs to be. So that's going to make the connection with your Google Analytics account, over there on that side of things. So that's how you can set that up if you're interested in that. Now, next up, we have our integration with our desktop software, Shepherd Staff. Now, if you're a user of Shepherd Staff, this can go ahead and bring in your people from Shepherd Staff into the users section and also onto the online directory portion of Church 360 Unite. We provide you with step-by-step instructions on how to accomplish this down here, and then we're also giving you your specific account token and subdomain right here, because you'll need to put that information into Shepherd Staff. So if that's something you want to set up, you have Shepherd Staff and you want to put in your people from Shepherd Staff into Church 360 Unite, this is where you'll go to do that. So you can kind of follow that there. Now, next up here, we have our social links feature. Now, you've probably been to websites where you might have even just kind of glanced over and not even realized it's there, but you've probably been to plenty of websites where if you look at the bottom, there's a little icon for Facebook, and there's an icon for Twitter, there's an icon for Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and that's for that organization's Facebook page or Twitter page or Instagram page. And, your church is going to have those things too. And so it would be, what this is going to let you do is this is going to let you put those different links to social media websites on the bottom of your church page. So what you would do is you would go to your church's Facebook page or Twitter account or Instagram, and you get the link for that account, and you would paste it into here. So and really you can put any link in here technically. So if I put in, http://www.facebook.com and I save my changes, well, that now, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the page, there's now a Facebook icon down here at the bottom right. When I click on it, now this is just going to take me to the Facebook homepage because I didn't link to any specific Facebook account. I just linked to Facebook's homepage. So that's what that's going to do, though. It's going to put those different social media links down to the bottom of your site. Okay, so let me go ahead here and go back. And so again, we have options for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Vimeo. And Vimeo is another video hosting site if you're wondering about that. Some churches like to use it over YouTube. But again, save changes here whenever you've finished making your changes then. The last item we have here is texting, and again, this is something we're not really going to talk about today, but again, if you come for tomorrow's session, we will be talking about how to send out text messages from Church 360 Unite. So if you're interested in that, come back tomorrow and I'll be talking about that then. Okay, so that's going to wrap up our settings menu. Let's move on to themes here next. So I'm going to click on themes, and this brings us to our themes page. Now, themes control the overall look and feel of your church website. We offer 12 different themes to start with here, and each theme has a different look and different options to it to help you build your church website the way you want it to look. So you can see we have 12 different themes here. And when you click on a theme, then it's going to provide you with presets. And presets is just here's some default imagery, colors, fonts to kind of start, kind of kick things off with. So this kind of is acting as a starting point. Now, when we talk about themes, they basically break down into two different categories. And I'm going to just explain very briefly. Basically, themes can be considered what we call horizontal themes or vertical themes. Now, most of our themes out here, 10 out of the 12, are considered horizontal themes. Now, when I say horizontal themes, what I mean by that is that the navigation of your church website is aligned horizontally along the top of your page. And then horizontal themes allow for categories. So you can see when I hover over About Us is a category and it has different pages under it then. So this is where you could go ahead and kind of have these different categories. And a lot of churches will go for this because they want to have these different categories where they can have multiple pages under them. Now, the other style of theme that we offer, the other category, are the vertical themes. Now, there's only two of those. There's the minimal theme and, of course, then the vertical theme. Now, the vertical theme, let me just switch to it so I can show you it. So I'm going to pick a theme, pick a vertical theme. And then you can see this theme instead puts your navigation aligned along the left side of the page, and it's all aligned vertically. Now, with vertical themes, we don't offer categories with those. So this really works best for churches that maybe just have a handful of different items they want in the navigation. They don't need a whole lot of subcategories. So you just have a few key things you want to show. A vertical theme works well for that. So it's really up to you and what you're designing here. But I'm going to switch back for right now to use the wonderful cross theme. I'm going to switch back to that. Let's use this variation of it. I like this one here. So I'm going to switch. So you're going to pick your theme and then you're going to pick a preset then. Now I also want to point out here this little description because this kind of informs you about some different things that you later on that you can customize about the theme. So, it gives you a little description and then it tells you, hey, it's designed to be mobile friendly, supports a comfortable number of navigation pages or categories. If you're designing a custom header, the main background image, so this here, can be switched out with another image sized 1600 by 640 pixels, or you can upload a custom logo sized at 708 by 80 pixels. So again, pay attention to those image sizes. You want to have an image that's as close as possible if you're going to be swapping those out. So just bear that in mind. Okay. Now, there is an option here to save. There's options here down the bottom, save as and delete. Now, for any of these default themes you already have, this delete button is not going to do anything. You can't delete these default themes. But there is a save as button here, and if you've made a lot of customizations to a theme, or you want access to this edit menu, which we'll talk about just a little bit later, you want to use save as here, and that's going to do what's called cloning your theme. And that's going to create a copy of one of these themes then, and it's going to kind of have some settings saved in them. So that way, even if you would switch themes, you can kind of save those settings and come back to it later then. Typically, though, churches don't switch up their themes too frequently, or at least the actual part here in the browse menu. But again, that's up to you guys on that. Now, once you've gone through here and you've made your selection on your theme, you click Apply Theme, and that would apply your theme to your page. Okay, let's go ahead then next and move over to talk about styles. Now, styles are our solutions for fonts here inside of Church 360 Unite. Now, I want to just talk a little bit about some history here in Church 360 Unite, because we didn't always offer styles as our solution for fonts in the past. What we used to do actually is when you were on your page, you could kind of on the fly adjust your font. You could choose a different font family. You could adjust the size. You could change the colors. You could do a lot of different things. We found that led to some problems, specifically with consistency. Let's say you were on a page and you designed a font you really liked how it looked. You had the exact shade of blue you liked. You had this exact sizing, and you thought, man, this is great. And then later on, you're working on another page and you think, oh, I'd really like to use that font again. Well, what exact shade of blue was it? And what size was it? And maybe you'd get something that looks close, but it was still a little bit off. So the problem became consistency. And really, consistency is key to a professional looking website. So we decided, hey, let's kind of approach this from another angle. Let's have you design your font styles ahead of time, so that way you are designing exactly what you want for your fonts, and then you can just pick from those fonts that you've already designed when you're working on your pages. So that brings us to styles, and you can see styles are broken up into two categories: block styles and inline styles. Block styles are meant to be your attention grabbers. These are supposed to be kind of your bigger, kind of more flashy header type text here. Inline styles is going to be more like your kind of everyday body text. Here's the actual content of what you're wanting to read here. So it's not really meant to stand out as much. Now, of course, we can edit any one of these styles, or we can even add a new style. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom right and click Add Style, and let's just add in a new style here. So first off, up here at the top, we're going to name our style. I'm just going to call this one Example, for example. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to choose if this is a block style or an inline style. And you might notice that block style offers more options than inline. And again, it's intended to stand out, intended to, kind of grab the eye here. So everything that inline styles has, block styles also has. So for demonstrating what I want to show you today, I'm just going to look at the block styles for right now. Now, the first thing we're going to select and we are designing a style is the font family. If you think about like using Microsoft Word, this is just what they would call the font, basically. And we offer a lot of different options here. I want to point out, though, this first option that we already have selected that's labeled Inherit. Inherit is a special option in that it's going to try to copy the text that's around it. So it's going to look above it and say, okay, what font family is the text above me using? What font family is the text below me using? And it's going to copy that. So it's going to kind of blend in to what you already have on the page. But maybe you do want to pick a specific font family. So if I go through here and I find a font I like, let's say I take this Roboto font here. I like that one. So I pick that there. And you might have noticed this particular line of text here, this changes as you make changes here in the theme section. So this is where you're going to be able to kind of preview what you're doing. Now, next up here is the font style. Now, it was a little intentional me choosing Roboto because Roboto has a lot of different options here for font styles. Font styles actually controls kind of two pieces here: the weight of the font and if the font is italicized by default here. Not every font family has all these options here, though. So not every font family is going to give you the option to make all these types of changes. For what I'm trying to do with this font, let's say I want to make this bold. Then I'm going to make that bold, and again, you can see it made that font bold over there. Now, next up here, I'm going to choose the font size. Now, we measure font in a size called in a unit called EM. The easiest way to think about this is what one EM looks like, and then all of our options are either a percentage smaller or a percentage larger than a single EM. So you can kind of pick what works best for you for this. So I want this to be a bigger font, so let's make this 1.75 EM. Okay, so you can see there it increased. Next up, we have text decoration. This is just saying if we always want this text to be underlined or we always want this text to have a strike through on it, we could select that here. Now that is something you can actually change on the fly if you want the font to be underlined or have a strike through. But if you say, hey, I always want this underlined, you could do that here. Next, we get the color picker. Now, the color picker here has a lot of options to it. You can really get down to the very specific shade of color you want this way. So if you do this here, kind of four different ways you can choose your color here. So you can use this little like kind of this actual like slider here, and you can kind of click and drag and get things exactly the way you want it. But there's also three sets of values over here. First off, there's the RGB values, red, green, blue. So you can make any color by mixing red, green, and blue together. And this is just kind of saying what weights we want on those. Next, we have hue, saturation, and brightness. You could select it that way too. And so if you're familiar with kind of using hue, saturation, and brightness, you could set that there. And then finally, we have hex code for our really technical people who understand hexadecimal. Hey, you can put in the hex code here instead if you want a particular color. So let's say I want this text to be blue. I have the shade of blue I like here. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, that would be the last option you'd have with an inline style, but we're going to move on because we still have options here for a block style. The other thing you could do with a block style is you could apply a background color to this font here. So let's say I want this background color, I could go in here, let's put in it like a shade of yellow, and I have that right there, and you can see then I get that shade, but it uses the same color picker that the color does here as well, so you can kind of set that up as well. Next up, we get margin and padding, and this is the spacing around this text. Now, in order to think about margin and padding, probably the easiest way to think about this is that there is an invisible box around your text. Margin is the space outside of that invisible box between the box and other text around it, and padding is the space with that between the invisible box and the text itself and the spacing there. Now, when you are setting up margin and padding, you click here. You can set up a top, right, bottom, and left margin, and the same thing goes for the padding. And again, you can choose how much you want on that. So if I do like a EM, yeah, and these all again all measured in EM here, so maybe a 1 EM is a little bit heavy. Maybe we do like a 0.25 EM padding there, and you can see then that puts a little bit of space then at the top of this. Finally, then with this text, you can also set a border, and you choose first off what kind of border you want. So let's say we want a dashed border. You choose how thick you want that border to be. So let's say we want that to be, let's do 1.5. Oh, actually, you can just do, sorry, this is whole, I forgot, this is whole number. So let's do a 2 there. And then you can click here and you can choose what color you want that border to be also. So if you want to switch colors on that, you could do that here as well. So now that I have that here, I could save this. And now this has created this example style. Now I do want to point out here, there's this font load meter. And what this is showing us is really every time you go to a page, the system has to load in the different font families that you're using. So you really want to restrict yourself to maybe just a couple font families on your page. I really wouldn't recommend going any more than 3 because the more font families you have, the more it's going to increase your font load. And what that is every time the system loads in a page, it has to load in all those fonts, which means it takes a little bit longer than the more font families you have going. Now I've just added 1 additional font families into the ones I'm already using, so it only increases the font load just a little bit. Probably won't be noticeable. It's really when you start getting into the red here that you are going to notice some slowdown between pages. You really want to be kind of careful and judicious about this if you're going to be adding in a bunch of different styles. Now, if I want to get rid of a style here, like I want to get rid of this example style, I would click on it here and then I could click and delete. There's delete, that would get rid of it. You could also do a save as, and this would create a copy of this. So if you go through here and you make some changes, you want to start based on another one, you could do a save as and then save this as a copy of the font you were working on then. But I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one for now. Okay, so that's styles. Next, let's move on to customize. Now the customize section, this is going to provide you with different options depending on what theme you've selected. And so this is where you would go in and you'd be able to swap out your background image if you'd like. Now this is labeled banner. This is actually the logo for this. Don't know why that's named banner here, but this is actually where you do the logo. But the background image, this is what we have here. And you'd be able to edit other elements too, like the link color. If I go in here and I change the link color here, you can see now that link color is more this blue color instead of the darker color we had before. But you can kind of change different things. And again, your options are going to vary depending on which theme that you're using. Okay. Moving right along, here we have the Advanced tab. Now, the Advanced tab, as the name implies, is some advanced options. Basically, this is where we can put in some custom code to affect things on your page that you maybe can't do conventionally with the normal tools that we have built in. To get a little bit technical, basically any of your custom headers, these are going to go in the head tag of every page, and the custom scripts are going to go just before the closing body tag on every page. Now, I know that may be a little over, it may possibly be over what you know here, and to get maybe a little bit better idea of what you can do with these, we actually do have an article that talks about some customizations you can make to your site using these options. And this gives me a great opportunity to point out our Help Center button here. So if I click this little lowercase I here, this is going to go ahead and bring up our Help Center, and I can search for different topics here. So if I search customization, okay, one of the articles we offer is what are some ways I could further customize my theme in Church 360 Unite. If you click on this, this actually links to an article that I wrote a good portion of, actually. And this would show you a different kind of custom code that you could do to make some adjustments to your site if you're interested. Now, this is by no means exhaustive. This is just some things we've found over the years that some churches have requested they be able to do. And we found ways to do those. And if you want to view this kind of more in this little window, you can click the See Original Article, and that's going to take you to the Help article where you can kind of see some more information about how those things work. Now, if you also, I want to point out here on the Help Center, if you ever need some, you can't find what you're looking for in the help articles, click the send us a message button. This will let you send us an email with your question. And typically with these emails, then these go into our support inbox, and we typically get those answered within about 1 business day. So we're pretty quick about getting those answered for you. Or of course, you could also give us a call at our helpline here, and that's available Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. Central Time. So a couple different ways to reach us if you have some questions. But let me go ahead and go back here. Now, the last piece we have here is this edit menu. This edit menu, this is kind of the, hey, if you are somebody who really has some know-how about designing websites down to like actually working with the code, this may be an option that's good for you then, because what you could do is you could clone your theme here. So we'll just call this Wonderful Cross Clone. And this is going to create a cloned version of my theme. But when I do this, this is actually going to then open up this edit menu where I get access to the code of the theme itself. Now, again, this is a pretty advanced option. If you're not really familiar with coding, coding here and HTML and working with CSS and things like that, I would probably just avoid this because it really, again, you really kind of need to know what you're doing before you jump into here, because it is possible to kind of, if you're not careful, you can break your site a little bit. Now, we can always probably, we're pretty good at being able to pull you back out of the ditch if that would happen. But again, I would recommend being careful here if you're going to use that. But this all, you can go into different areas and you can actually work with the code of the theme. Now, not a huge thing here, but when you clone your theme, depending on when you've cloned it, some options may not be available to you. For example, we mentioned this actually in the social links section. If you've copied your theme to customize it, this option may not be available to depending on when you copy the theme. Basically, if you copied your theme before we introduced this, so if you copied it today, you'd still have access to it. But this is just to say basically that, hey, if we release a new feature, sometimes with that, we will not put in those new features into a clone theme just because we don't know how it's going to interact with your theme. So my recommendation, if you're going to do that, kind of keep track of the customizations you've made to the theme and be ready to, if we were to introduce a new feature that you want to use, be ready to go ahead and kind of clone your theme again from a new theme and then re-add those customizations to that so you can take advantage of those new features. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so that's going to go ahead and wrap up our theme section. Let's go ahead and let's take a look. I'm going to switch back just to my standard theme. Whoops, let me select that there. There we go. And let's go ahead and go over to the Pages menu. So the Pages menu is where we're actually going to go ahead and add in pages to our church website. Now you can see this is divided up into two different sections, my active menu items and my available menu items. Active menu items, these are the items that are actually in your site navigation. You can see all those pages there. So you can see home, about us, and then all the pages under about us, and then you can see your home, there's the about us category, and then all the pages. The available menu items, these are pages that are on your church website, but those pages are not currently on your navigation at all. So those are, they're still there. You could place links to them on your different pages, but otherwise people aren't going to get to those pages unless they know the URL for those pages. Now, looking here at our menu items, you might know, you can see a lot of different kinds of pages here. And you might notice that next to a lot of these pages, it says draft right now. Now, I did make this as a brand new site, so I have a lot of my pages in draft status right now. Now, when a page is in draft status like this, what this means is that only people who have permission to be able to make changes to your church website can see these pages. So when I'm logged out, I'm not going to see a whole lot of pages because I can't make changes to those pages and they're in draft status. Now, if I wanted to take a page out of draft status, I would click on it. And you can see it kind of gets a little blue highlight around it. And then I could say, all right, I want to publish that page. And that's going to take that draft status away from the page, which means you wouldn't have to be signed into the website. You could see that What We Believe page now. Now, if I need to say, well, I still need to do some work on it, I can click Make Draft, and that's going to go ahead and put it back into draft status. Now, the next option we have here is to delete a page. If I don't need a page, I truly don't need it, and I'm not gonna miss it down the line, I could delete a page. Now, you do want to be careful about deleting pages because when you delete a page, that's it. You can't get it back after that. So my recommendation, if you're on the fence if you really need a page or not, I would put it into draft status and then I would drag it over to my available menu items then, and that's going to kind of put it in a place where unless somebody is logged in, can make changes to the church website, and knows the web address for that page, no one's going to see that page. You can kind of put it off to the side if you're not sure on that. That would be my recommendation instead of just going off and just deleting pages straight away. Now, another option that we have here is you see a public and a private option here. And you might see that they're like next to this members page, it says members only. Now, members only is another status that's kind of similar to the draft status. The draft status says you can't see it unless you can edit the church website. Well, the members only status says you can't see this page unless you're signed into the website, because you can have users who are signed into your website that can't make changes to your website. So this is basically a way you could say, hey, we want to restrict this to maybe just the members of our church. We don't want everyone seeing this page, but it's not necessarily a page we need to hide from our members then. So you could put it in this members only status by clicking on a page and saying private, clicking private then. Now, if I want to take that back away, I just click on public, and that would make a public version of the page. That would put that stage back in public status, and then anybody be able to see the page. Okay. Now, the last thing we see here is to duplicate a page. Now, this is going to create an exact copy of this page for you to work with here. Now, where I see a lot of churches will do this is they'll duplicate a page that maybe they're getting ready to redesign. Maybe I'm doing a whole redesign of my homepage, but I want to leave the old homepage up while I'm doing that redesign. I don't want to have that homepage like in an under construction status. So what I would do with this here is I'd pick the page that I want to copy and I click duplicate. And this is going to create a copy of this page called Home 1. This is an exact copy. Everything your homepage has, this has exactly laid out exactly the same. So you would go in here then, and if you're redesigning your home page, you would come to this home one then, and you'd make all the changes to your page here. Your old home page would still be up for everybody who comes to your church website. But then when you're ready to go with this new version of your homepage, you could click and drag it to where you wanted it. And that's how I can reorganize my pages, just by clicking and dragging. I could place this here. I could delete the old homepage, and then here in a minute I'll show you how you can go in and rename your page. So I could rename this back to home, and then people would be able to see that new version of the homepage. But it's like you didn't have any downtime then, because you were designing the page in the background and the old page stayed up until you were ready to go. So, oh, well, I just deleted my home page. So let's go ahead and put home one back in there, and let's save that. That was my bad there. And let me go ahead and just go back to home page, and I'll just show you that real quick. So I'll edit my home page. I'm going to switch the URL or the website address to back to just home, and I'm going to change the page title to just home here as well. And when I do that, then now we're back to having our home page just as we had it before then. So that's how we could do that, and I'll publish that here as well. Okay, so that's how we could go ahead and use the duplicate option. Now, you might have been wondering, okay, well, how can I affect the navigation? And I did kind of just briefly show that. If you want to change how your pages are organized here, you just click and drag to reorganize those. So if I want to take a whole category, maybe I want to take About Us, and I want to put that just below my worship times, I would just click and drag, and that takes that entire category and just reorganizes it here. So now you can see if I save this, now I see home, worship times, and then About Us. So I can kind of reorganize that then. And I can also take individual pages and reorganize those here as well. So maybe I want our staff ahead of our story. Again, I save that, and when I do that here, that goes ahead and that changes that order then here. Now with this then, maybe I want a new category here. So if I click Add Category up here at the top right, this lets me add a new category, and we'll just call this Events here then. And that adds in a category called Events. Now a category on its own doesn't actually do anything for you. You notice it didn't show up here in the navigation. That's because categories themselves are not pages. You can't do anything with just a category. You need to place pages under a category then. And to do that, I could take this category and let's place it, let's say, right up here. And then when I place the page, if I want to put things under this category, then I would just click and drag it up here at the top right. And you notice there's kind of this gray shadow below the page. If I want to place it under category, I'm going to drag it so it indents over under that category. And when I save it, you can see now that Events category is there and that Welcome page is there. So that's how we can create a category and put things where we want to. I'm going to do that though, and then if I don't actually need this category anymore, I'm going to click on it and just drag it over to my available menu items. And when I drop it in there, that actually gets rid of that category. So if I don't need that category, that's where I can place it. Now, I also probably need to be able to add new pages too. And if I want to add a new page, I'm going to come up here to the top right-hand corner of the page, click Add Page, and this is going to show me the different types of pages that I can add. And really, there's three important options here. First up is this option here we see that says Feed Page. This lets us create a blog post style page, and we'll come back to this in just a minute. Next up here is a group page. The group pages are almost like mini websites unto themselves on your church website. We'll be talking more about those during tomorrow's training. But then we have the blank page, and this is probably what you're going to use to construct most of your church website. Now, all these other options but under these top three pages, these are all just blank pages with some information kind of pre-filled in to give you a start at building that page. So these are good like starters for building a page here. But I'm going to go ahead and put in the blank page up here, and I need to design a VBS page for my church website. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to call this new page VBS. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to put it up here in my navigation. So I'm going to put that up here right up top. I want people to be able to see my VBS page, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. All right, so now let's go through here how we can actually add some content into this VBS page. So I'm going to click on this here, this little link under it, and that's going to take me into the VBS page. I also could have got there just by clicking on VBS up here, and this leads me to my blank VBS page. Now, obviously, I need to add some content to this. So to do that, I'm going to come over here to the left and click on Edit Page, and this is going to let me start editing this page to add content into it. A few things over here on the left. First off, we get the status of the page. So if it's in draft status or if it's published, I can change that from here too. Now, when a page is in draft status, you might notice the button down here at the bottom to save says Save Draft, but if it's published, it says Publish. It does the same thing. It's saving the changes that you've made to the page. Then you have the URL for the church website. So this is when people go to the site, this is the website address they go to. So they would go to ccchurch.360unite/VBS. Okay, so that's how you change that there. And then you have the page title. This is what the page is called up here at the top. This is what it's called on your church website. The last piece here is the meta description. Now, to describe the meta description, if you've ever done a Google search for a web page, there's like a little short description of that page below the actual link. That's what this meta description is. It's just describing what this page is. This helps things show up better in searches. And you want to just put in a couple short sentences about what this page is all about here. You don't want to just stuff it with keywords. Most search algorithms are kind of designed to filter that kind of thing out. So you want to put in just a couple quick sentences describing what this page is. Okay, so you have that. Now, if I want to actually add content to the site, I need to have the Edit Page tab extended, and then the area of the site that I can edit here is within this dotted line box. This is called a cell, and this is going to help us control the layout of this page. So right now I have just one cell, but maybe I want to make this a 2-column page. Well, I can click the plus sign to the right here, and I can add a second cell, and then I can actually adjust the size of these cells, and then I'd have 2 columns going here. I can have up to 4 cells in a single row here, so I can kind of get these the size I want them. And maybe I even want a second row of cells here. So if I click the plus sign above or below, I could add another row of cells here, and then I could add content in those. And I can even take a cell that I already even have content in, and I could drag it down to that other row. So I could kind of drag and drop to get the exact layout I want with these rows and cells. This is a kind of a handy little tool to have here. Now, you do have to have at least one cell on every page. You can't get rid of your last cell here in the system. So you have to have an editable area. So that's what this is all about here. So if I want to actually add content to this cell, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the pencil button here, and this is going to let me go ahead and start making changes to this page. So you can click inside here, and this works just basically almost like a Microsoft Word kind of thing here. So there's a lot of different options. So let's start designing our VBS page. Well, the first thing here is I have VBS up at the top, but that's obviously not very big. Maybe I want that centered. So what I could do here is, first off, I could choose the style, one of the styles we had here from earlier. Let's make that a heading 1. So you can see now it has that heading 1 style. And maybe I want to italicize it or underline it. Let's underline it here maybe. And you can see you have the different options for that here: bolding, italicize, underline, strike through. You could do all that. And then, I could change the text alignment here. So maybe I want to go ahead and, again, I want this centered, so I'm going to align this in the center then. So now that's been aligned here in the center. And then, okay, we have the top of our page where we want it here. So then if I press the Enter key, that's going to give me sort of a paragraph break then. That's going to give me that double line there. If I only wanted one line, though, if I hold down the Shift key and then press Enter, that just does it goes down a line, but that doesn't do a paragraph break. So we're still in heading 1 then. So I'm going to do just a regular enter here, not shift and enter, and that's going to give me just a single paragraph break here. And then I'm going to go back to being left aligned. Okay. Some other options we have here, you could do a bulleted list, and so here's first item, second item, third item. Okay, and I can add those different things in here. And when I'm done with the bulleted list, I just press enter again, and that would get rid of it. And it works the same way with the numbered list. You also have a block quote here. If you're trying to kind of pull out a specific quote in something here specific, you can click up here at block quote and said, VBS is important for families. Okay, and this kind of just is if you want to kind of show something specific about about some text here. This is a good way to do that. So we'd have that there, and I'm just gonna remove that for now. There we go. Okay, so we have the block quote. You can change your indentation here. So you want to increase or decrease your indentation, you can do that. We have options to undo and redo, and these actually use the standard keyboard shortcuts. If you hold down Control and then press Z, that'll do your undo for you. Control Y would do the redo. The next option we have here is to link to. And this lets us link to different places, link to different things here. So if I do link to, and you can create a link to different items. Now I would recommend with this link to, you want to put some text down here first. So maybe we could do email, let's do email us if you have questions, okay? I could put that in here and highlight it, and we could go ahead and add different types of links to this text. The first one up here is to a page or feed in my site. If I want to link to another page in my site, I could pick that, and I could pick the page I want to link to. And when I put that in here, that's going to go ahead then and put in a link to my home page now, for example. And if I save that, I put it, whoops, did I save it? Hold on here. There we go. Okay, there it's saved now. I don't know why. It had a little bit of lag on it, I guess. Oh, that saved it without the link. Hold on, let's go back. Let me just add that link back in. There we go. Let's save that, and now it's saved. And then I click on this, and it would take me back to my home page. Now, with that, if I edit this link, here's where I could go in and say, well, instead of it opening in the same tab, maybe I want that to open up in a new tab, and I would just click that there. And then when I save this, instead of opening up in the same tab I have, it would open a new tab in my web browser instead. The other thing I could do with this link here is I could remove the link but keep the text by clicking this unlink option here. Okay. The next type of link that we have here is to link to any URL. So this is when if you want to link to an outside website, you could use the any URL option. And then here's where you would go ahead and you'd put in the link to wherever you want to go to. So, for example, to do a little bit of a quick cross promotion for a second here, we have a service called VBS Mate. It's a VBS event page thing you can do, and it's a free sign up. But maybe I have set up a VBS Mate page. Well, I could copy that link that I have here and save it. And when I click on that, that's going to go ahead then and take me to my VBS Mate page then that I've already set up then. So one way you could do that here as well. Okay, so that's a link. That's my link to. That's the link to any URL. Now, the reason I said email us if I have any questions is one of the options here is to have a link to an email address. And this would let you go ahead and put in an email address that when people click on this would then take this link and it would open up whatever email service they use on their computer with that email already filled out. So I could put in my email address. And I could even pre-fill in like a subject line here. So maybe like VBS question. And then in the body section, if I want to pre-fill in the body, I could do that too. But if I save that now, save my page, and click on this, this is going to open up the email service I use on my computer, which is Microsoft Outlook. And you can see that the email address I filled in is already filled in here, and that subject line's filled in. And then I could go ahead and I could write my email. So that can be a handy thing to have. And then finally here, the last thing I have is the last type of link that I have is to a link to a file for download. Okay. Now what that's going to do for us then is that's going to let us grab a file here, and that's going to go ahead and upload it to the church website. So if I do a file for download and I click the upload option, I could grab a file here. Let's say this whole Word document I'm using here in the background, I could upload that file, and that's going to go ahead and make it so when I save that, that is going to go ahead here and actually download that document that I had uploaded earlier. Now, I do want to make a quick note about files that you upload to your church website. When you upload files and video and images and audio to your church website, that does use up some of your storage. And while we talked about storage and how much your church might have depending on your subscription, there is a maximum file size that you can upload, and that's 100 megabytes. So, you may have enough space for it on your site with your storage, but again, the maximum file size you can do is 100 megabytes. Just bear that in mind. That's not going to be an obstacle for most things, but, again, just keep that in mind when we're talking about larger files. Now, if you want to go through here and manage your files that you've uploaded, let's say I don't actually need this file, I could click this trash can icon here, and that's going to go ahead and actually get rid of that file that I had uploaded here earlier. And it's not going to make it take up any storage then anymore. Now, that takes care of our links here. Now, another option we have here is to put in a horizontal line. This just adds like a little bit of a horizontal line break here. It's nice if you want that kind of within your cell, just to kind of act as just a sort of a visual break there. Next thing we have here is to insert an asset. Okay, so let's go ahead. So insert an asset, this is how we would add images here. So let's go ahead and add an image for the VBS we're having here. So again, I'm going to center this as up. I'm going to go ahead and leave that here. And I'm going to insert my asset, and then it's behind this little bubble here, but there's a button that says image. And then I could upload an image from my computer. So let's go ahead and upload the image for our VBS here. I'm going to double click on that. And that's going to add in that image. Okay, well, we have our image here now. Maybe that's a little bit big though. So what I want to do here is I want to adjust the size of this image. Well, I can click on this button here that says change width. And when you change the width of an image here in Church 360 Unite, we kind of have a little bit of a golden rule. When you change the width of an image, the height's going to change too, because we retain the original proportions of your image. So it's not going to stretch out and make your image look strange when we change the size. Now, there's two ways we can go ahead and we can designate the size of an image. We click change width, and we can either do a percentage width or the number of pixels. So if we do the pixels option, we could say, all right, I want this image to be 750 pixels or px wide. I put that in, save it, and then you can see that changes the size of the image. Okay, I could do it that way, or I could say, well, I want this image to take up about 50% of the width of the cell that it's in. So if I save that, then you can see it takes up about, you can see the width of the image is about half the size of the cell that it's in. So that's how I could change the size of the image. Now that I have the image sized the way I want it, let's go ahead and put that centered here on the page. I could also do a right align if I wanted to as well. We also have an option here that says change asset text alternative. What this does for us here is this is an option for accessibility. This is going to go ahead and set up for people who use a screen reader, maybe they have visual impairment. This would give their screen reader text to read off when they get to this image. So we'll put in here, this is our VBS theme for the year, celebrate the Savior. Oops. Okay, and I would save it. And so when their screen reader would get to that image, that's what it would read off to them. Okay, so I put that in there. This full-size asset, this would go ahead and kind of return some original aspects of the image. We're going to leave that alone for now, though, and do change image link. This is actually going to let us put a link on the image. So let's take that VBS mate link I had here earlier. I'm going to put that in here. So we're going to put that in, and that's going to be, when I click on this image, it's going to take me to that VBS mate website. And I could say, again, open that maybe in a new tab, but I can put in any type of link that we used in that link to menu earlier. So I'm going to add that, and that puts that in there. So now we have that link to my VBS mate page where people could sign up to to participate at that VBS, whether they be a student or a volunteer then. And if I want to remove that link, I click this little remove image link here. That would leave the image, but it would get rid of the link. Now, there are other types of assets that you can upload to your church website too, specifically video and audio. For audio, it's looking for MP3 audio files, and for video, it's looking for MP4 audio files. But, and with that 100 megabyte cap, with audio, you're still probably going to be okay under 100 megabytes. You could, an hour-long sermon, depending on the bit rate of the audio, it's not going to use up that, storage for you then. But video is where you're going to run into problem, especially in the age of HD video. So I probably wouldn't upload video through here, but I'd use the next option, which is insert media. And with insert media, what this would let you do is this would let you take videos that you've uploaded to other places then, like let's say YouTube. And it would let you use the video player from that service on your church website instead, which wouldn't take up any of your storage. So let's say I have a video here for my VBS. I'm taking the YouTube link to that video then, and I would do insert media. I could paste that in, and that's going to go ahead and then put in this video here for me. So there's that Celebrate the Savior VBS video then I could have on my website. And then once I save this, I could click here, and then this would start playing that, that video here. And it's just using the video player then on YouTube. It's not taking up any of your storage here on Church 360 Unite. Okay, so that can be a really nice benefit to have. And I know we're running a little bit over on time. I do apologize for that. Let me try to get through any other content we have here today. Another quick couple items to talk about. I'm just going to get rid of this video here for now. We have the option to add in tables. I'd probably try to avoid tables just because a lot of times tables don't tend to work too well with mobile devices. And so with mobile devices, that's where people are looking at your church website these days. And it's just because of the screen size. A lot of times tables, if you go to a website with tables, a lot of times it just doesn't look right on a church on a phone screen, for example. Next up is to insert a group link. We'll talk more about that when we talk about groups during our next training. And then finally here, we have an option to edit an HTML block. Now, this is going to let you go ahead here, and this is going to, hold on. That's going to let you go ahead and add in some HTML code to the page. Now, you may wonder, what do I need to do that for? Well, for example, one really request we get sometimes is, well, I want a form that I could fill out here on my church website for different things. A lot of times I hear like, oh, well, new members, I want them to submit their information so that goes over to us so we can put it in our, our membership management software. Well, we don't have a form builder in the software, but there are plenty of free form services out there, such as, we have Google Forms, for example. So this is a free option from Google, or Jotform. And these are places where you could actually design forms on their page, and they're free. Design forms there, and then they could provide you with an HTML code, and then you could go ahead and when you put in that HTML code, then it'll actually place that form right on your site. Okay. I had a couple questions here. Diana Engstrom, how do you spell check? We don't have spell check built in, but again, your web browser a lot of times will have spell check built in, or there are free plugins you can get for your web browser that would offer spell check. And then Robert asked, can a video be uploaded from a file rather than from a video service like YouTube? Yes, it can, but you are under that 100 megabyte cap. So it would need to be a shorter video or a video of lower video quality, because again, a lot of times you're going to run to that 100 megabyte cap and you wouldn't be able to actually upload that. But if you do want to upload a video, you'd go to insert asset, choose the video option, upload the video from your computer, and that would put a video player right there on your page. Again, you just have to watch that file size cap though. Okay, but that's how we could go ahead and add in content to this cell. Now, this is only one type of cell. There's actually 4 types of cells. I promise the other ones aren't quite as lengthy in content. That's what's called a rich text cell. Now, if I want to add in other types of content here, I could edit the cell type here and say, well, I want a carousel cell. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. But what I could do with this is this actually adds like a slideshow, image slideshow to the page. So what I could do here is I could edit the cell, and then I would set it up and say, okay, I want this to advance, let's say every 7 seconds. And then I need to set a maximum height for my images. This does a little bit break that rule we talked about it earlier about distorting your images. You do have to set a maximum height to your images here. But what I would then do next is I would click add image, and then I could add in a spot in my slideshow for an image. So let's go ahead and I'm going to click select. I'm working with this spot in my slideshow, and then I can upload an image from my computer. So let's go ahead and grab this image here. I'm going to upload that and I'm going to say come find out more. And I could put that in here, and then I could even put a link on this, and I could again link to like my VBS page or wherever I want to on that. But I could add those images in here, so I'm going to add in just a couple more so you guys can see more about kind of how this slideshow thing works here. So let me just add in a couple other images here. Add that in, and then finally one more image here, sorry. Put that in, and I would add that image there, and I would save it. So I put on these images, and when I do that here, this puts in our images into a slideshow here for us. And I can see it's going to automatically advance to these different slides with these images in here. So a lot of churches like these like slideshows, and they'll put these on their homepage, and to kind of tell people what's going on at the church here, kind of coming up. So this is a handy little tool to have here as well. Now there are two other types of cells. We haven't really talked about what backs those here yet. That's the feed cell and the calendar cell. The feed cell would show you the latest you post in your feed, and the calendar cell would show you kind of the events that are coming up. So we'll save those. We'll save those for another. We'll save those for next time. Those types of cells. But I do want to just quickly touch on feeds here before we get to the end of today's session. And so I'm going to go ahead. This is our VBS page. Well, let's go ahead and back out here really quick. And you could also add in a feed page. Now we already have a feed page kind of set up here, our sermons page. So I'm going to go here and let's just talk about feeds just really quickly. As I mentioned earlier, feeds are a blog post style page. And what I mean by that is you can add posts here, and whatever the latest post will be on top, and it'll push the previous posts down here. And these posts will have different content in here. So we have like one we have here already, and this has information about like a sermon we had, and I could download some audio from this sermon because I've uploaded that to this post. And so I could do that here, and I have that post here already. But if I want to add a new post to this, I click my edit page here, and this is going to let me add a new post, and I could title this post. This is, let's say last Sunday here was it would have been I think the 21st, I believe. Yeah. So we could say April 21st, 2024. And then I could put in what I want to put in here about my sermon. And I could upload files to this. So I could put in like the bulletin here from the service there, and I could put in like a text summary of that sermon. I could put in a video of that sermon, audio of that sermon, whatever I want to do. And this works just like, a rich text cell that we had here earlier. Now, you see here the page is in draft, the post is in draft status right now. No one would see it when we post it, except for people who can edit content on the site. I can also schedule this post and say, well, it should go up at this date and time when we're ready. And so, pastor wants to go ahead and he uploads all the information about the sermon, and then he has that go up automatically at the end, on Sunday afternoon after he's put the sermon out there. He's preached the sermon then. Does a 100 megabyte limit apply to individual files or accumulated individual files? So you have all the storage that comes with your site, but the maximum size any one file can be is 100 megabytes. Okay. And then finally, you could also say it's published, and that would just post it when you click this create button. Now, when you go ahead here and edit a feed page, you're going to have all the normal options that you have on a page here, but you can also say how many posts should show up on a page. And right now it's set to 7. So you can actually tell the system, hey, show more posts per page, but it'll take longer to load up, or you can reduce the number and then your pages will load up sooner. When we say the number of posts per page, let's say you get to your 8th post, it would push the oldest post to a page 2 of the sermons page then. You also have the ability to have comments on these pages here too, and this is where you could say if you want to allow comments, and then you also have the option to moderate comments here as well, which will, so we can, with that, just kind of a quick little thing there. But that's how we could add content here for feed. Okay, so I went over here on time. I do apologize for that, but that's going to wrap up what we have here today. Let's go ahead though now, and I'm going to open up our slideshow back here again, and let's go ahead and get into our quiz for today. So with the quiz, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go ahead and provide you guys a poll so you can answer the questions here. So again, no pressure on you guys here. Just want to see if what I'm saying kind of got retained here. So we're going to go on to our quiz. And so our first question up here, true or false question. Any images, video, audio, or other files that you've uploaded to your Church 360 Unite website will use some of your site's available storage. Is that true or false? So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to put that poll out to you guys. If you want to go ahead and answer that question here, just go ahead and tell me if that's true or false. I'm going to give everyone just a little bit of time to answer here. And let's go ahead and, okay, and you'll see that all here. Okay, looks like most of us have voted here, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And so most of us said true on that. So is that true? And the answer is, yeah, that's true. Any content, any files that you upload to your site are going to use some of your storage. Okay, so you want to be mindful about what you're uploading, what you're keeping on your site. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so that's our first question. Next question here. Font changes, such as changing the size or color of your fonts, can be made on the fly. So can we just go ahead and change like the size and the color of our font on the fly? Well, let's go ahead and see on that here. So what do you guys think? Is that going to be true or false? So font changes such as changing the size or color of your fonts can be made on the fly. So you don't have to, right when you're designing the page, you don't have to go anywhere else. You can just do it right then and there. All right, I'll give everybody just another few moments to get that one answered here. Okay. All right, just another few seconds. All right. Well, it looks like everyone on this one here said true. And actually, guys, this one is false. You can't just on the fly do that. Remember, we have that styles menu, and that's where you can actually like change the colors and the fonts and everything like that. And so, oh, you should have, Robert. You should have a poll window popping up here, and there in that poll window you can choose if it's true or false. So you should have that popping up. If you're not seeing that, you may have, it may be like hidden behind another window there, so you may need to kind of look for that as when those pop up here. But yeah, with the styles, then those are going to, you wouldn't make those changes on the fly. You kind of set those up in advance and then go from there. Okay, next question up. True or false? Pages in the available menu items will be seen in the navigation or menu bar of your site. So think back to that pages menu earlier. There's those two columns, your active and available menu items. So these will be seen in the navigation of your site, the available menu items in your pages section. Is that true or false? Okay, give everybody a little bit of time here. Looks like a little over half of us have answered. Okay, so true or false? Okay, most of us have answered on this one. I'm going to close that out. And the answer to this one is false. So the available menu items is that right column. That's where your pages that you have created but you don't have in your navigation are going to be. The items that are going to be in your navigation are in your active menu items, or that left column. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, next question up. When you create cells on a page, they can be dragged and dropped to arrange a page in the way that you want it. Okay, and I've kind of phrased this question a little bit differently here. I do apologize for that in the true or false section here, but when you create cells on a page, they can be dragged and dropped to arrange a page in the way that you want it. So go ahead here and answer that if you wouldn't mind. Looks like a little over half of us have answered. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll here now. And yeah, that is true. Rows and cells really make it easy to arrange your page in the way you'd like it to appear, including dragging and dropping cells to quickly rearrange your page. So you can kind of drag and drop, put things in the way you want them to appear. All right, next up. There isn't any way to display videos that have a file size over 100 megabytes. There's not any way. Okay, true or false on that one? Okay, so think about that. Hosting videos, remember you have that 100 megabyte cap on files. Is there any other way to get around that? I'm going to end the poll here. And that's false. Remember, we do have the 100 megabyte cap, of course. That's the largest file you could upload, but that's where that embed media comes into play, and you could put in like a video from YouTube or Vimeo or whatever video service you use, and that kind of gets around that problem here for you. Okay, well, that wraps up the quiz. Good job, guys. And finally, do you have any questions you kind of been holding back? If you do, ask them now. We're happy to get those questions answered for you. And I'm just going to move on to the next slide, but if you're still in the middle, you're writing your question, don't stop. But I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Again, we're really glad to be able to host these to kind of help inform you guys about everything you can do with Church 360 Unite. We really hope you learned something new today, and if you got a refresher on some things that maybe you might have forgotten about here in Church 360 Unite. So again, I really appreciate everybody attending today. Will a replay be available? Yes, we will be offering a replay, so we will be sending that out over email here, typically within a couple of days after the webinar. We get those out to you guys, so be on the lookout for that here in the future. And if you don't have any other questions, though, then today, that is the end of the webinar here. I'll hang around for just another second or two while you guys ask any questions you might have. But if there's no other questions, you guys have a wonderful day. And if you're attending tomorrow, I'll see you then. Okay. Doesn't look like any other questions. So, all right, I'm going to close it out. Again, thank you so much for attending today.